Hello, everybody. It is 4:26 a.m. Central Time on Wednesday, December 28th, 2016. And if you're in the U.S., hope you got your coffee. It is a wild night on the West Coast of the United States. Welcome into everybody who's new here, everybody who's a repeat viewer. Of course, you know where you are. To all the new people, you are here on the Earthquake 3D live stream where we daily recap events from around the planet. And seismically speaking, we issue forecasts for certain areas, certain regions to be on watch for large movement, small movement, everything in between. And over the last several days, I issued multiple warnings for California, West Coast, Northwest California, to be on watch for a 5.7 to 5.8 earthquake. Now, last night at 10 p.m. Central Time, so 8 p.m. West Coast time last night, I did my update, and I talked about this 4.3 that you see struck off the coast of Oregon earlier in the day. Now, this 4.3 is significant because when we went and looked it up, there was a significant downgrade to this earthquake by a magnitude to a magnitude and a half. And a magnitude and a half puts it right at 5.7. So they downgraded it by a magnitude and a half, 5.7. Then a 5. I got on last night at 8 p.m. and postulated that with that downgrade, we would know within a certain amount of time if a larger earthquake strikes over to the east, then the earthquake off the coast was larger too, and that downgrade was incorrect. Well, now you see it. A 5.7 struck interior to the coast. But it didn't just strike anywhere. Let me go show you where the earthquake struck. Now, this is really interesting to me because, well, this is a spot that I've shown over and over again. The earthquake epicenter is right here along this road in this sandy basin below Aurora Crater and the unnamed volcanic butte that we've shown in so many past videos of the past several months. And the reason we showed this in the past is because small swarms were breaking out at these two different volcanoes, Aurora Crater and the unnamed volcanic butte. Now, the largest earthquake in years for this location at the California-Nevada border, or anywhere in Nevada for that reason, has struck. And it struck at the base of these volcanoes. And look at the swarm that struck since. Multiple 5.5, 5.6, 5.3, and then dozens of 2s, 3s, and a few 4s mixed in. And same time that's going on, the pressure started to transfer east by southeast. And you see these smaller earthquakes that go down to the east-southeast? Well, these all struck since the earthquake over here at the volcanoes. And if you go look up these earthquakes over to the east, you're going to see they're falling on the edges of two different volcanoes and two different sets of nuclear operations where humans have detonated bombs down below and in the crust and detonated in the crust. So ultimately, this is a large amount of movement going on in the West Coast region, and we forecast for that to occur. Now, please understand also, guys, that when we see this happen, we also see movement strike over to the east. Oh my God. You didn't see it? You didn't see it. This is getting foolish. Okay. Let's do this again. Everybody here who's in the stream, we're going to start over. Okay, we're just going to start over. Because if you didn't see what I was showing, then that's significant. Okay, I mean, you need to see it. It's important for you to see this. So we're going to start over from a point where I zoomed in on Google Earth. Okay, so we're zooming in on Google Earth. Let me show you where the earthquake location is. The way we find the location, we take the coordinates from the USGS. Now, we can get any one of their coordinates, but I'm going to pull the one from the 5.7 itself. So the way you get the coordinates, you go to the earthquake page, and you literally grab the coordinates from the top of the page by copying them and taking them and putting them in on Google Earth. You should use Google Earth for several reasons. One, It's got place marks that you can place yourself. Secondly, you can download place marks for volcanoes and the Smithsonian that really help you in your research. So here's the earthquake location, like I said, right along this road, and the road is right on the flanks of Aurora Crater and the unnamed volcanic butte. Now this activity that keeps striking is striking in relation to the greater supervolcano to the south. This is Mono Lake supervolcano, and it's about half the size of Yellowstone, and this is a dome that's rising out of the center for the past several hundred years. So this has erupted in the past, and on the flanks of both sides, just like up at Yellowstone, there's other volcanoes that are significant. So to see a swarm breaking out at this location lets us know that pressure is coming up from off the coast. That's the earthquake I was talking about before, the 4.3 off the coast. But it wasn't a 4.3, it was more like a 5.7, a magnitude and a half greater. We talked about this at 10 p.m. last night. Now, the 5.7 to the east-southeast is struck, and look what's happening since. More earthquakes pressing further to the east-southeast. Now, what does this mean? Well, pressure transfers to the east-southeast. That's why we have the red arrows on the map. The red arrows on the map show which way the pressure takes overall as it transits across the plates. Now, professionals used to say, up until we came along here on YouTube, that pressure didn't transfer across the plates, and that one earthquake wasn't related to another over a distance. Well, now we know that's false. And we know that when the west coast is struck, it's usually followed by significant sized earthquakes in the Midwest, or noteworthy swarms, one of the two. Sometimes both. You'll get a significant sized earthquake and a noteworthy swarm. So what's going to happen over the next couple days is this pressure is going to transfer to the east and southeast. Well, what is east and southeast from this large earthquake? Take a look. Who is east and southeast from the large earthquake? Well, southeast takes us down into Southern California. What's in Southern California? Well, guys, there's two spots that have already been hit over the last day. Your pumping operation off the shores of Los Angeles, and those are offshore oil rigs, and then a volcano down here just south of the border, which is south of Salton Sea. That volcano is called Cerro Prieto Volcano, and let me show that to you. Here it is, marked with the red triangle by the Smithsonian. You can pause it and read it if you'd like, but we'll zoom in a little bit further, and you'll be able to remember this volcano. All my viewers know it because on the inside of the volcano is a bunch of graffiti written by locals, and I don't know what it says. I don't know if I want to know what it says, but you'll remember this volcano from now on whenever I mention it. Cerro Prieto, with the volcano with the graffiti on the inside. So, there's a swarm happening there right now. The reason it's being struck is because pressure is coming down the coast already, and it's pushing to the east by southeast. So southeast is being excited, and east will be excited. Both will be hit by significant sized earthquakes. How long? Probably within the next 72 to 96 hours, 3 to 4 days. Let's get out the calendar here. 3 days puts us on New Year's Eve. 4 days puts us on New Year's Day. So, by New Year's Eve into New Year's Day, this pressure from this movement should have moved to Southern California and to the Midwest. But not just any spot in the Midwest, should strike in western Oklahoma and eastern Colorado. And I might also have to add in Yellowstone itself, not for an eruption, but for a new swarm to break out, because this pressure is going to be introduced onto the red line. The red line is the western edge of the craton, and when that's done, it's going to put a flex or at least a certain amount of pressure on Yellowstone's magma chamber, which is 11 Grand Canyons in size. It's not going to erupt. It will cause a new swarm, and the swarms will be significant the further south we go into Oklahoma. Now you'll also see the red line goes down through Texas. Well, unless they've cut reporting in Texas, which is a possibility considering the corruption going on right now and the amount of money that's pouring in. But if they have any honor or dignity, we most likely will see an excitement back down here at the Fort Stockton pumping operations on the western side of Texas. Most likely, with this kind of movement, the western edge of the craton is going to be perturbed from Yellowstone to Texas, back up into Oklahoma, and as far east as the New Madrid seismic zone. And I'm here. I am here in the New Madrid. I am right below this arrow, or actually southeast of the tip of the arrow, where the red line goes across this bend in Missouri. If you know Missouri, okay, we're right here, and I am literally underneath this right there. So, when I talk about warning the New Madrid, I'm taking it serious. I issue a warning for my own backyard. And we're talking about a swarm returning here, topping out probably more like in the 3 range, so not that big. But it'll be significant because we haven't had a swarm there in a while. And more likely, Oklahoma, Colorado, Texas, you are going to be receiving the blowing brunt on this. It's going to punch into you in the next few days. It happened just this past week. There was a 4.3 off the coast this past week, which caused a 4.0 in Colorado, a 2.9 and a 4.0 in Colorado, and a swarm in Oklahoma. Take a look at it. That's from the previous 4.3. Now there's a 5.7 and a huge swarm. You can imagine what that's going to do over to the east. Okay? So if you're in California, if you're in the Midwest, you got to understand that, first of all, in California, there's warning signs that show up beforehand. I didn't just get lucky naming a 5.7 to 5.8 striking in California today. I didn't just get lucky naming that out for striking on the 27th into 28th. The reason we were looking for a 5.7 to strike in California today, or last night into this morning, is because of the other pressure coming across the plate. This is all tied together. In California, you're related to the West Pacific overall. That's how we knew to watch you. I mean, it wasn't just a random guess. We're talking about California. We're talking about a large earthquake, the largest one to strike in years in the location. Even in the whole region, we haven't seen anything this size interior on land this year. Nothing this size this year in California, Nevada, anywhere in the northern or central part of California at all. As a matter of fact, I think the largest earthquake of the year was a 6.5 off the coast just a couple weeks ago, actually. So, when we talk about the largest earthquake in the continental United States on land, we're talking about this earthquake right now. Now, some people will say, well, what about the 5.8 that hit in Oklahoma earlier this year? That was a single 5.8. This is multiple 5.7s, 5s, 3s, 2s, swarms, all stacked on top of each other within a few hours' time, which means the potential energy on this is tremendous. And if I could just see the station location information on this, it would make all the difference in the world. See, I need to see the origin information. I want to see the magnitude list. I don't want to have to sit down and try and compute all that myself. I'm trying to do a live stream. But they say 8 stations are reporting and they're not providing the magnitudes. I don't know what to make out of that. Let's go over and check the seismologist page on the EMSC, see if they have magnitudes available yet. Now, they're showing here, for instance, we'll go down the list. See this here? 5.9, 6.0. Okay, so we'll go click on this, and I want to see station information. Europeans have it. Let me get a sip of my coffee. Okay, so look on the right-hand side of the screen. You guys see this? Everybody can see this, right? Okay, good. Right-hand side of the screen. It's pretty obvious. Okay, it says magnitude, Mag 1, right? Mag 1. Starting at the top, 5.8, 5.3. Down to 4.2 then. 5.7, 4.0. 7.2, 6.4. 7.2, 6.4. 5.8. 5.4. 5.5. Go down the list a little bit more. Going into the 4s. 4s, 4s. Back up to the 6s. 6.3. 5.7. Back to the 5.7 range. Now they're going to include these low balls, which is going to drag it down. But take a look at it. Multiple stations showing above 6. Okay? So what does that mean? It just means that we're not getting the full picture and that the downgrades that are put out on these earthquakes actually mean that, you know, whether or not we're within a few points, that it's the most significant sized earthquake that I've seen strike in this region in a very long time, which would take it above the Oklahoma earthquake at the single 5. Does that make sense? So regardless of which way you want to look at it, the total expended pressure on this is massive. And the fact that it's happening here, let's go back to the location, not there. The fact that it's happening here at Central California at the Nevada border, again, look at where it's striking. Here's our location. And you know what? I dare say I need to put a place mark on this. Hold on. Hate to do this live, but I'll be typing in your ear for about 2 seconds here, but I need to do this. December 20. Was that on the 27th their time? No, it was the 28th. Okay, December 28th, 2016. Okay, so now it's marked for all time immortal. I can come back and reference this, and when I share my place mark links, you guys will now have this included as well. So the swarm is striking there. It's on the flanks of these volcanoes. The volcanoes themselves are on the flank of Mono Lake supervolcano. And I think we need to watch it. We need to watch it for 2 reasons. This location right here. First of all, if anybody lives out there and you're familiar with this area, it's on a road. I don't know if that's a military range or what. Here, what is this? Junction House. What road is this? I think I've got roads on here. Let's turn on roads. If you live out here, you might be able to drive there. It looks like it goes to a quarry or something. What is this? Some kind of quarry. Unlisted. Do we have a road name associated with this? Yeah, I think we do. Okay, what is this called? State Route 3C. State Route 3C. Okay, so it's a state route, which means you can drive it. And if you're adventurous, don't, of course, take any risk and always transport yourself with food, water, and communications in case you break down. And don't blame me if anything goes wrong. But if you go out there and you know the area, you may want to go out there and see if there's any kind of volcanic activity taking place or surface deformation. I mean, it is on the flanks of a volcano, but we don't have any street level there, which means that it's pretty remote. You know, for California, Nevada, not to have a street level means it's very remote. But it's on a state route, 3C. Wonder where that goes into. Like, if you were to drive there, how would you get there? It's very far. And it is pretty much desert. Nearest town? Well, there's schools out here. Okay, well, that's weird. That's really weird. It's got place marks for schools, but there's no school there. Interesting. Okay, well, if you're from the area, you're probably more familiar with it than I am, whether or not it's accessible. And if you do go there, you probably already know, if you live there, that it's dangerous, right? I mean, going out in the desert isn't safe. But if you do go out there, take a camera, because, man, it's on the flanks of a volcano, and you got a huge swarm happening there. If there's surface deformation or a fissure or a small volcanic butte that forms, if nobody's there to capture it, then I wouldn't know if it would even get reported. If it's in the desert, and it just happened, and a poof of smoke came out, and that was all that happened, you would almost have to be out there to see it, right? So, be aware, the largest earthquakes of the year for the Intermountain California region have struck, and they continue to strike. And this is going to put pressure further to the east by southeast. It's already happening. The progression of earthquakes that's spreading out from this are pressing to the east-southeast. You can see them on the map here. They are marked clearly. And they have come after this swarm. So, I mean, it's pretty obvious that they're spreading out, right? So don't be scared by this either. Something else I'd like to point out to you. Please, guys, don't be scared. You should be prepared. Being prepared means knowing what to do when a large earthquake strikes. We issued a warning for a 5.7 in California. I hope everybody in California got it, whether you're in Northwest California or Central California. See what happens if I'm off by 100 or 200 or 300 miles? If I'm forecasting for the region, by the way. I'm not forecasting for cities, okay? I am forecasting for regions. So if I talk about California and I'm looking at Northwest California, it would be a good idea if the people in Central California, even though I'm talking about Northwest California, look and watch and listen and wait. Because if I'm off by a few hundred, you're going to be hit, okay? So again, this is spot on for the magnitude we were looking for, spot on for the time frame, spot on for the region. As for the specific location, it's a few hundred off. We were looking at Eureka. So I should get a measurement. I should get a measurement on that. I was looking at right off the coast of Eureka at the tip of the red arrow, and I bet that's about 500 miles. it's a regional forecast. It's within a half state. So I have to give myself some leeway in the forecasting, guys, because I'm not down to the point where we can get it to a city, to a 100-mile region. You know what I mean? Like, if I were to try to forecast for St. Louis or Chicago, the 100 or 200-mile region around Chicago. All right? But I'm not that fine of a point yet. I'm more like for the region, so Northwest California into Central California, or off the coast of Oregon. More large of a space that we're trying to forecast for. Kind of like forecasting for a hurricane, I suppose. Right? So you're forecasting for the track of a hurricane. Right at the last second, you can pretty much get it down to a fine point. But in those days leading up to it, like we were for California, you're looking for a region. And so there it is. And if you want to see the warnings, they're over on my YouTube channel for public access. Free to watch. Go over and check it out. 5.7, watch out in California. 5.7, watch out in California. 5.7, watch out in California. 3 days in a row. And then it hit. So, we're not just lucky. We're not just throwing darts at a board. And I'm not consulting a crystal ball. Even though I've got one. I do have a crystal ball. But I don't use it for earthquake forecasting. It was sent to me by a viewer to make light of the professionals who said I was just getting lucky over and over again. So, there you go. The largest earthquakes to strike in the continental United States this year have occurred borderline or equal to or just a little bit more than the 5.8 that hit in Oklahoma that was the previous record holder for this year. So, now, people in Oklahoma, you need to watch out for an additional size, almost 5.8, because the last time you were struck by a 5.8, there was a 5.8 off the coast in California. You know that, right? Before Oklahoma was hit, a 5.8 struck on the coast at Eureka in California. And a few hours later, the next day, a 5.8 hit in Oklahoma. It's almost always like that. When a large earthquake strikes on the West Coast, noteworthy movement happens in the Midwest. So if you live in the Midwest, you got a day, maybe 2 days, to prepare for this to hit. And look at the size of it. Look at the size of it. Let me put it in perspective storm-wise. You guys are all familiar with storms, right? And if you live by a river, a lot of us live by creeks and rivers. Okay, you know when it rains heavy upstream from you, that water is going to come down in a deluge down the creek or river and flood, right? Well, in this case, the pressure is upstream currently from two locations, from Southern California and from the Midwest United States. Both spots should be hit by the deluge of pressure coming down the pipe. And it's going to follow the pressure transfer zones that you see marked on the map here. So, have a plan. Be prepared. Don't be scared. Look around your house and understand that when a mid-range 5 hits, it's enough to shake you out of bed. It's enough to knock things off shelves. It's enough to break things, open cabinet doors, glasses to slide out, cracks in drywall, cracks in plaster, falling drywall, falling mirrors off ceilings, falling mirrors mounted to walls, falling over television sets. Yeah. Broken facades off the fronts of houses and toppled chimneys. All possible at this magnitude range in the United States. You know how we know it's possible with that? Because we saw a 4.5 do that in Oklahoma at the start of this year. A 4.5. Now we're talking about a 5.5 to 5.7 and a whole swarm of equal size earthquakes. You can imagine that there are some people there right now who are sweeping up, picking up, while experiencing more shaking. And they're wondering, is anything larger coming? And I do have to tell you, I do have to say this, while it's remote, there is a possibility of a larger earthquake to come at the location. It's remote because the pressure is being expended right now by pop after pop after pop of 2s and 3s. The more these 2s and 3s happen, the less likely you have a chance of a larger earthquake above 5.7. However, if there's any new pressure introduced, if anything else strikes off the West Coast and pushes more, then it might increase. So, the next couple days are going to tell the tale. You need to have your plans dusted off. If you live in California, you already know this. If you live down in Southern California, look, I'm only looking for a 4.0 range earthquake to be striking down by San Diego, east of San Diego, near Salton Sea. But if I'm a magnitude off, and it turns out to be a 5 or an upper 5 instead of a 4, an upper 4, then we're looking at damage in the area. Right? So, be prudent to just pay attention. And if I'm wrong by magnitude, I hope I'm not. But if I am, then that will be significant for you. Anytime anything above a 5 hits in Southern California. You remember when the news anchor guy dove under his desk when the 5 hit the last time? There was that, I don't even remember the guy's name. It's a hilarious video. A 5.0 hits, things start shaking, dude dives under the desk, and the anchor woman just stays there looking at him, and then finally she gets underneath and she's kind of smiling, and he is freaking. He's freaking, he's peeking his eyes over the desk. Is it safe? Is it safe? Oh, it was great. It was great. But so people freak out when 5s hit here in the States, and the building code is usually sufficient to accommodate to less building collapse. So because they built structures to withstand certain forces, we don't see these collapses that we see when 5s hit, like down in South America or over in China. That's, kind of the only good news out of that. So I hope I'm right. I hope it's only in the 4 range and that it hits down in Southern California. But the volcanoes, be on watch. Okay? If you want to, please share this stream, and I'll be back on doing updates throughout the morning. There's no way I'm going to sleep. I'm drinking coffee now. I'm going to go refill. And then we will do another update at 5:15 a.m. Central Time, or 3:15 a.m. West Coast Time, or 6:15 a.m. East Coast Time. And we'll run down all the earthquake information again. We'll see if anything else is struck in the next 15 to 20 minutes. And also, if you guys get a chance, and I'm serious now, I'm not bragging, but I've got to tell you, because no media is going to come out and tell you, and my viewers might tell you, but you might not go follow the link. Go over to my YouTube page, please, and check out the warnings that were issued for California over the last couple days. You can just go through and fast forward. They're about an hour long, my updates. And you can just fast forward through to where I'm talking about California. You can just move your mouse over the little slider on YouTube and see the little picture. Just move it to where you see I'm talking about California. Or you can go watch my most recent video posted about an hour ago, and I've got the videos linked down below in the description. And it's the warnings I issued for 5.7 to 5.8 to be striking in California. Again, I'm not bragging. I just got to tell you about it. Because I want you to know the warning was out for several days. So any damage that occurred, it's because the people didn't get the warning, or if they got the warning, they didn't take the stuff off the shelves, right? Okay, so we'll be back. Be on watch, and much love.